3 years later, in the isolated ruins that are the city of New York, a lone car sped through the streets. Robert chased down the deer in the streets, trying to shoot one, but failed to do so as he met a dead end. He got out of his car and sneaked behind the deer. Suddenly, a family of lions attacked the deer, and Robert decided to go back home when he saw that the sun was setting. He poured gasoline on the front stoop and went inside to eat with his dog, Sam. He was watching old news from back when the city was still full of life. He then bathed Sam, singing happily, until his alarm went off and he sealed the windows and doors. In the darkness, he lay in the bathtub with Sam, listening to the monstrous sounds coming from outside. The next day, Robert went down to his basement, where his lab is, and recorded the results of the experiment he did on rats to create a cure for the virus. Some of the rats were infected and unable to kill the virus. Some died due to the virus, but one rat, Compound 6, showed a decreased aggression response and seemed totally normal. He left the house with Sam and went to a store where he saw mannequins around. He talked to the mannequins as if they were real people and even went to the counter to pretend like he was paying. He traveled around the city, searching for anything he might need. He then went to the South Street Seaport, a place he always goes to every day at midday, waiting for any survivors to come to him after hearing his radio looking for survivors. Robert was playing golf when Sam sensed something. Looking through the scope of his gun, Robert saw it was a deer and chased it down. Sam chased the deer inside a dark room, and Robert screamed for Sam not to go into the darkness. Robert followed and opened his tactical light, looking around the dark place in search of Sam. When Robert heard a monstrous cry, he covered the lights and hid. He continued searching cautiously until he found a trace of blood leading to the now dead deer. Robert covered the light, and when he uncovered it again, he saw a group of monstrous creatures called Dark Seekers huddling around something. He quickly covered the lights and slowly backed away to avoid attracting the monster's attention. He found Sam hiding underneath a desk and whispered for his dog to follow him. But Sam wasn't listening, she was staring at something, and when Robert turned to look, a Dark Seeker jumped at him. He shot the Dark Seeker and ran away with Sam, who slipped out into the light. Robert jumped out of the window with a Dark Seeker clinging to him, and when they fell out in the street, the Dark Seeker wailed in pain due to the light. Robert went back to the entrance and set up a trap, planning on capturing a Dark Seeker. He ordered Sam to stay inside the car as the dog could still get infected, while Robert couldn't as he is immune to the virus. He went back to the entrance again and destroyed a tube of blood on the trap. He waited right outside until he caught one Dark Seeker. A clothed male Dark Seeker peeked out from the door and roared at him, angry that he had captured one of his. Robert took the Dark Seeker to his lab and recorded as he observed and made reports about the Dark Seeker, which is female. Robert checked the Dark Seeker's vital signs when the Dark Seeker suddenly roared and tried to attack him but was stopped by the restraints. The Dark Seeker's heartbeat slowed down, and Robert injected something into the Dark Seeker, allowing it to breathe properly again. Robert was frustrated as the 391st serum he created failed again. He locked the Dark Seeker inside a room with a transparent door and wall before leaving. In his home office, Robert recorded a video of him making reports about his research with Sam patiently sitting beside him. Robert reported his observations on the Crippen virus, the virus that hit the world and turned humans into the monsters they called Dark Seekers. Robert mentioned the clothed male Dark Seeker had exposed itself to the sunlight and the clothed female Dark Seeker was captured. Robert was confused since the Dark Seeker just ignored its survival instincts and guessed that it probably was because of decreased brain function or the starvation that is causing them to grow even more uncontrollable. The next day, Robert did his usual routine, search for supplies and wait by the port for any survivors. Later on, he was driving while talking to Sam about celebrations, as it was his birthday that day. He stopped when he noticed a mannequin standing in the middle of the road, alerting him that that mannequin was supposed to be in the store he always went to. Due to his obvious bad mental health, Robert asked the mannequin if he was real before shooting it and firing around aimlessly. He approached the mannequin and stepped into the puddle, only to realize that he'd fallen into a trap. He got pulled by his leg and hit his head on the ground, rendering him unconscious. He woke up due to his alarm going off and saw that the sun was already setting. He cut the rope, falling and injuring his leg. He crawled backwards to his car with Sam walking beside him when he saw the previous clothed Dark Seeker in the building in front of him, holding two Dark Seeker dogs. Robert limped towards the car as the Dark Seekers waited for the sunlight to disappear before attacking him. Sam attacked one of the Dark Seeker dogs while Robert killed the other, who had him pinned down. The Dark Seeker had been killed, but Sam had already been bitten. Robert brought Sam to the lab and injected something into her that could help reduce her pain. Then Robert sat down on the ground with Sam in his arms, comforting and singing for Sam, who gradually turned into a Dark Seeker. Robert looked away, fighting back tears as he killed Sam. Just like that, he lost his only companion. The next day, Robert buried Sam and stared at the passenger seat Sam was supposed to be sitting on. He went to the store and talked to a mannequin, crying as he begged the mannequin to say hello to him. That night, Robert didn't go back home. Instead, he lured the Dark Seekers to the port and opened his headlights, screaming in anger as he hit the Dark Seekers with his car. The previous clothed Dark Seeker, who seemed to be the leader, roared, and the Dark Seekers attacked Robert's car until it flipped sideways. Then the clothed Dark Seeker went inside the car, growling as it attempted to bite Robert. But then a bright light shone, and the Dark Seekers ran away. Everything was blurry for Robert as he saw the silhouette of a woman saving her. The woman asked where he lives, and he told her his address, telling the woman not to bring him home as the Dark Seekers might track them down before fainting. It was morning when he woke up, and he heard a clattering from the kitchen. Cautiously, he stalked towards the kitchen and saw a woman and a child. The woman introduced herself as Anna and her son, Ethan. Anna explained that they came from Maryland and they heard Robert's message on the radio. They had been waiting by the port all day for him and saw him fighting with the monsters. Then Anna mentioned that they were going to the mountains in Vermont, where there was a colony full of survivors who didn't get infected. Robert refused to believe that there was a survivors' colony and threw his plate in anger, scaring Anna and Ethan, who jumped away from him. Robert apologized for lashing out and went to the bathroom to calm himself down. Moments later, he went back down and saw Ethan watching Shrek while Anna was standing by the kitchen entrance, watching Robert. To lighten up the atmosphere, Robert started saying all the dialogues in Shrek he had memorized. Anna and Ethan just stared at him for a few seconds before Anna went back to the kitchen, and Robert awkwardly told Ethan that he liked Shrek. Robert followed Anna into the kitchen and thanked her for tending to his injured leg. Anna told him that he was on a Red Cross evacuation ship out of Sao Paulo, which fell apart, and Anna and Ethan started docking to take on supplies with other survivors. 5 of the other survivors were immune but were taken and killed by the Dark Seekers. Anna then started planning out how they'd get to Vermont, but Robert told her that he wasn't leaving because New York is his site and he believed that he could still find a cure for the infected. Robert was in the lab when Anna came in with his coffee and saw the heavily sedated Dark Seeker. Robert explained that the compound he created will certainly kill the Dark Seeker, but by drastically reducing the body temperature, it is possible to increase the compound's effectiveness. Then Anna saw the pictures of all the Dark Seekers Robert had captured and experimented on but who had died. A while later, Robert carried the sleeping Ethan to Marley's room. Anna saw a picture of Marley, and she and Robert had a chit-chat about Marley while listening to music. Later that night, as Robert was sealing the doors and windows, Anna tried to convince him to come with them to the colony, but it only infuriated Robert. Then they heard a sound coming from outside. Robert asked if Anna brought him home while it was still dark, and Anna answered yes. Robert told Anna to turn the lights off as he slightly opened the window and saw that the Dark Seekers had followed them home. Anna ran to get Ethan, and Robert detonated the bombs he planted in the cars surrounding his house. The bombs exploded and killed some of the Dark Seekers. With his ears ringing after the explosion, Robert looked for Anna and Ethan but then saw the Dark Seekers' leader waiting for him. Robert fought against the Dark Seeker and reached out for a gun to shoot it. The leader left, and Robert continued looking for Anna and Ethan, who were hiding from a Dark Seeker inside the room. Robert jumped inside the room, grabbed the handgun, and killed the Dark Seeker. He checked to see if Anna and Ethan were fine when they heard the Dark Seeker's leader roaring, ordering the other Dark Seekers to attack them. Robert brought Anna and Ethan to the lab and told them to go behind the plexi, where the captured Dark Seeker is. Robert locked the doors and followed Anna and Ethan behind the plexi as the Dark Seekers barged in. They looked at the female Dark Seeker and noticed that the Dark Seeker's appearance was slowly turning back to human-like, which means that the cure was working. The Dark Seekers barged into the lab and started crashing against the plexi while Robert was trying to convince them that he could help them. When the leader arrived, the other Dark Seekers stood behind him as the leader repeatedly crashed against the plexi, effectively breaking it. Robert stared at the leader, coming to realize why it was so furious and persistent about killing him. Just like humans are when it comes to their loved ones, the leader of the Dark Seekers wanted to save and protect the female Dark Seeker. Robert could hear the voice of his daughter telling him about a butterfly as he looked at Anna, who was tightly hugging Ethan. Robert extracted blood from the female Dark Seeker, as the cure was in it, and told Anna and Ethan to get in the coal chute. Robert handed the cure to Anna, and the latter asked him what he was doing. Robert answered that he was finally listening and told Anna to stay in the coal chute with Ethan until dawn so they could leave safely. Then Robert turned back to the Dark Seekers, walking towards the drawer and pulling out a picture of Zoe and Marley. He then grabbed a grenade from inside the drawer and pulled the pin as he stared at the Dark Seekers' leader with teary eyes. The plexi had completely broken, and with one last push, the Dark Seeker would be able to get to Robert. So when the Dark Seeker's leader ran to crash against the plexi again, Robert did the same and collided against the leader, letting go of the grenade and causing an explosion inside the lab. The morning came, and Anna left with Ethan, virus in hand. They went straight to Vermont and arrived at the colony. Anna smiled as she met the other survivors, and she gave the cure to the head of the colony. In the narration at the end of the movie, Anna told the story of the Crippen virus and the legend that restored humanity. She told the story of how the deadly virus burned the world and pushed humankind to the edge of extinction. A scientist named Robert Neville dedicated his life to finding a cure for the Crippen virus. On September 9, 2012, at approximately 8:49 p.m., Robert finally discovered the cure. And at 8:52, Robert sacrificed his life to defend the cure that saved the world. In the last narration, Anna stated that the restored humanity is Robert's legacy, and this is Robert Neville's legend.